Hello there and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley. My name is Draxter Dupre. We're still on summer hiatus. This last week here in Germany is pretty darn hectic. Myself and a few folks from Mad P Games were filmed in real life for an upcoming documentary about Second Life for Spiegel TV, a subsidiary of the probably most famous and influential weekly news magazine in Germany, Der Spiegel. We had a great time, and we were actually able, with some in-depth one-on-one interviews, to bring across our passion and love for creative virtual worlds. Jo Yardley might be in that same documentary. It's not clear yet. The documentary, I think, will come out in October, so there's plenty of time to keep you updated with the work in progress. I, for one, have the utmost confidence in the director, Phil Thoma, that the resulting piece will be balanced, deep, and just real fun to watch. Now, on the more concerning side of Second Life news, the much criticized Linden Lab terms of service from last year have been finally updated, and I think it's safe to say that the bloggers out there are covering this are a little disappointed that the update does not go far enough in reassuring creators that Linden Lab is on their side, and that rights of ownership and rights to relicense content and the reproduction of content in other platforms, basically the who, when, where, and what are not really firmly clarified. That's what I read in most of the blog comments. Being so busy here, we would love to have an in-depth conversation, but we simply don't have the time to produce a piece, so we decided to rerun an interview with Richard A. Goldberg on the matter. Richard is known as Rag Rant in World. He's a well-known illustrator in real life and a member of the Mad P team of game designers. We talked about the terms of service a few months ago, episode 13, and Richard's long involvement with groups that educate artists about their rights, even before all this new digital wonderland stuff we live in now. When I conducted this interview, it gave me real insight into the seeming complexity of the issue, but also, and I think a lot of listeners realize that as well, that ultimately it's fairly straightforward, the relationship between artist and distributor. These issues can be solved amicably, and we can theoretically move towards a win-win relationship. So that's what I got away with this interview. For the most up-to-date discussion on the issue, we also will link to Inara's yarn and Mona's take on the terms of service, and of course Pussycat Catnip, who has a great take on the recent update. Here's Richard A. Goldberg in an interview that originally aired episode 13. Enjoy.
About August of last year, I think that I was first made aware of the change of terms of service, the TOS. The old terms of service was a very reasonable document for content creators. And basically, if you're a content creator, you make your living by owning your property. Your income is derived from basically leasing out that property to various markets. So if I create something for Second Life, that's great. The terms of service says, here's our platform, you create it, you own it. We want no part of it. We simply are creating this world for you. Like my traditional illustration clients, where I'm commissioned to create a drawing for a magazine, and the terms of service there pretty much stipulate that I own the content and I am leasing them the rights to use that content in their format.
It seems like Linden Lab has now, in the new terms of service, chosen an approach as if Photoshop would force you, if you design a character, then Adobe owns that character.
Well, not so much owns it, but has unlimited reproduction rights to it, so they could do whatever they want with it, which was contrary to the copyright law of 1978 in the States.
Let's go back on the more fundamental level, because I think listeners are already confused. I mean, I read through everything and it's very clear in my head, but once you start talking about it...
Yes, on a more fundamental level, the way the copyright laws read in the United States and pretty much worldwide with moral rights, it states that if you create it, you own it, and that's it. So that's a very powerful document in the sense that whatever I create, I have the rights to lease out the terms that I can then sell and resell the drawing or object or whatever you make, whatever creation you whatever kind of artist you are. It doesn't have to be a visual art, it could be anything.
That's something that a lot of my musician friends still, I think some of them don't understand, that once you create it, you don't have to send it to the copyright office. You own it once you made it.
Now, when you own something, you have the right to sell it all, lock, stock, and barrel. Great, you get your fee, you're happy, or you have your choice not to sell it at all or to lease outright. So do whatever the hell you want with it. That's basically it. That's very simple. For instance, licensing is a very lucrative part of the business where if you're successful, you create one object and license it to 10 or 20 different people.
And sometimes a client would ask you to give him or her exclusive rights, and then you can negotiate and say, well, then you have to bring in a little bit more green, and then I might consider it.
Right. So some clients want to buy the copyright, which because of their needs, they need to be the creator of that work. When you sign over copyright, it means they are the creator. But if the price is right, you sell it. Now, the old terms of service from Linden Labs simply stated, okay, we'll reflect that. So whatever you create, you have your rights to it, and we don't want any part of it. I mean, we have the rights to feature it in Second Life and let all the other residents see it. Linden Lab amended their old terms of service to something more like, whatever I create, they can use whichever way they want in perpetuity. So not only do they want to have the right to use that thing for whatever, but they also wanted to use it forever. So it was both a comprehensive rights grab and a term grab.
I don't know how this applies to the US, but in Germany, the Performing Rights Society can administer the artist's rights for a certain amount of time. I think it's 70 years, and then you actually have to renew it. So this is, in fact, pretty darn drastic. Your great-great-great-grandchildren would still have to abide by these terms of service.
It's the same in the States. It's the copyright plus 70 years after you're done.
Also, there's language, and I'm looking for it, which seems to also be standard now on all platforms, including platforms that we don't know exist yet.
Been invented, correct. So now this is more and more a common terms of service, not only in Linden Lab territory, but also in my traditional two-dimensional illustration territory, where they want all the rights for nothing, basically. So because it makes it very easy for the purchaser to then manage that content. But it's totally unacceptable for a freelancer because that basically kills that item for resale, because somebody can get it either for free or from somebody else for cheaper.
The concern more is not that Linden Lab now goes in and looks for a really nice mesh chair and then sells that. It's more that you have no way of monetizing your own content in other venues.
Yes, and quite frankly, I believe that Linden Lab is not altering their terms of service to do that. I don't think they have any interest in my chair or whatever I create to resale for their financial gain. What I've heard they've claimed is that they simply want an easier rights package to manage with all their other businesses. So that, to me, means sloppy lawyering. I'm sure there's a better term for that, but basically it's saying, well, we'll just put this blanket TOS on for everybody and everybody will be happy. Well, no, everybody's not happy. The corporate side is happy, but the content creators are not happy. Even though the intentions from Linden Labs may be honorable, there is still potential there that if Linden Labs gets sold, then the new purchaser said, oh, look at this. We own all the content here. This is fabulous, And then the content creators are literally, expletive deleted.
You also told me in a previous conversation that one of the big problems that I also heard expressed from other content creators, when you create content for the Second Life platform, now that you can design this in Blender or other offline design engines, and then you use it for Second Life, you can also use it, of course, maybe for an iPhone game or something else. So you can have multiple platforms. So that wouldn't work either, right?
No, it wouldn't work because I may have an item that I want to resell that I created in Second Life. I may have an item that a client does want exclusivity of it. Now, me being the copyright owner, in a normal area, I could say, okay, I'll sell this new client the rights and I'll rescind the rights for Second Life. But now with these TOS, I can't do that. So then I can't sell to the exclusivity to my new higher paying client. And so that really limits me in the marketplace.
So just want to spell it out. As soon as you would put it into Second Life, let's say you create a creature, and as soon as you put it in Second Life, boom, you cannot guarantee another client who may come on board, say, hey, I love this creature, I'll pay you 20 grand for using it. And you can say, well, I can't do it because it's already in world.
That's basically it. So we we lose control. Each piece that we develop and each line that we develop takes an inordinate amount of time, and it's a lot of work, and we want to see a return on that investment. The TOS are problematic in that sense. It's antithetical to the way we do business. And the lab claims that they're not interested in this. So my thinking is, well, why can't we simply fix this with some simple language saying that, okay, content creator, here's the deal. We will basically have the rights to distribute your object on our various platforms, this, and this. But any other use, all rights revert back to me. You know, the language to that effect. I mean, again.
So the language could be revised, just making clear, limiting it to Linden Lab property, let's say.
There's no reason why they need perpetuity. That doesn't make any sense. Put a term on it. 10 years, for as long as you're in Second Life, something with an end. Then it's any platform yet to be invented. That's out. I mean, come on, what are we talking about there? You know, okay, so you have to spend a couple of days of your corporate lawyer's time on this language, but why not simply fix it? What's the problem with fixing it?
So perpetuity, territory,
scope. They don't need unlimited usage for everything. I mean, just get rid of, be more precise with your language. Okay, they need unlimited use within the context of whatever that platform is that they bought from Australia. What's the name of that?
Desura, and that's what's been speculated over and over in countless blogs, that it had to do with the Desura acquisition, which is, let's remind listeners who are Second Life centric, who don't know what else is going on. Desura is a platform that distributes indie games and mods, just sort of like Steam, but I guess more focused on independent developers. That was, I guess, the reason given, sort of wishy-washy by them.
That may be problematic too. If they can transfer all of my rights to an indie gamer, you can see where sloppy language causes problems for us, for the content creators who are out here trying to make a living.
So what are we doing now then? What can we do? There are people who have very publicly stated they will leave the platform, they will no longer develop it. It seems to me that it should be in Linden Lab's interest to remedy this quickly, because Second Life is nothing without the content creator.
I thought that was the whole idea of Second Life, was to make a content creator paradise where you create all these wonderful things that are unique in the world, and you draw people into your platform because all these wonderful things are there that exist no place else, and everybody's one big happy family. So
a shared creative space, so to speak.
Yes, they create the platform, we create the content. So as of now, I have to think about what I can contribute because I am entering other markets, like the Unity has a marketplace. Unity, the game creation software, the marketplace, and there are other marketplaces also.
They have a big asset marketplace. It's growing quite rapidly.
Yes, and that's basically the market we're all as mesh creators are entering. If you could create mesh for the Second Life world, you can create mesh for basically any virtual world.
Jean Bouchard, who we interviewed last week in architecture, he went completely to Unity, and he does the same thing. So when somebody approaches him, what can we do? He's a big Second Life fan, but he says, let's do Unity. So he recommends it. So this, in that sense, it's a competitor to Linden Lab, because if Linden Lab, again, also positions themselves, for example, as they suggest, in the educational market, Unity can be a big competitor, because somebody says, okay, I'll create this little school game for you guys in Unity. It's standalone. Boom, done.
That's true. I think that's why we're all wondering, when Second Life will maximize their position, which is actually quite strong. They've been at the game for a while. The browser's in great shape. I think the mechanics of the game, of the world, are in great shape. Lag is much less of a problem now. The Oculus Rift is coming out, which should enhance the experience. So now is actually a good time for them to build on their strengths. And there's competition in everything all the time for everybody. I mean, that's nothing new. So they should be able to compete, no problem. Now, from my point of view, I have to compete against other content creators, but I have to also enter different markets because I can't live off of one market in any field, whether it is Second Life or working for one magazine or whatever. It's just not the way it works. As a content creator, I have to diversify my markets. I have to be able to sell here, and make money that way, which is fine, and that's how it's done. So it would be a shame to have to not be able to be in the Second Life market, not because it's such a huge market, but it is a great market. It's a lot of fun.
It's a fun market. Fun should not be excluded.
Great stuff there. I have friends there. And, I work for a company called MadP. We create great content. And from MadP's perspective, we want to deploy a state-of-the-art game for Second Life. And if we can't guarantee our rights to it, then we have to... We have some serious legal hurdles to pass before we can feel comfortable.
We agree to all sorts of very stringent terms of service. People are commonly not aware that potentially Facebook could construct a ad campaign out of some of your cool photos and pay you absolutely nothing. People are clicking accept within a millisecond here, and I know your answer already, but I asked that question anyway. What's the big deal if you sign it on Facebook, and why don't you just sign it in Second Life? Why don't you accept it?
Well, I don't create content for Facebook.
Exactly. And on LinkedIn.
As a matter of fact, Pinterest is another site. I'm not on there because of their terms of service. They want a comprehensive. We can use this forever for anything. And I say, well, then I'm not going to contribute anything because I can't afford it. If I put an image on there and it is from a client of mine, that client is I'm liable for copyright infringement. Or not copyright infringement, but contract infringement on that client's behalf, because I have agreed to that client can use that image, let's say, exclusively.
Let's say this again. I think we didn't touch upon this because this is the flip side of it. If you have someone that you agree to complete exclusivity of a character or an illustration, and then you just also want to use Pinterest as a little promotional tool for yourself, which is very handy, it's very nice layout and everything. You put some of the stuff up there. You couldn't even do it. You couldn't even put your own stuff in sort of a nice portfolio type site on Pinterest.
Exactly, and that's the only reason why we'd want to really use Pinterest is for, get the piece out. It's a nice conversation starter. It's a nice way to get your name connected to an image. It's a great thing.
There's a film called Terms and Conditions May Apply. I mentioned it on the podcast a few times, and it's very interesting. They relate the advent of these very stringent terms of service to 9/11, where there was so much panic and sort of under the radar, Silicon Valley companies snuck in these things, sort of undetected. I think people should really watch that film. But I wonder, what can you do? I mean, is there anything that we can do? I mean, we are powerless in the digital age, the so-called free internet age of things.
Information is power, so the first thing you want to do is to educate content creators, and I think we've made an attempt to do that in Second Life forums. There are groups out there that have gotten together and written some very strong opinions to the lab about how they feel, and there are content creators that have walked. That is your choice. I think in general, though, education for content creators is a long history, talking about herding cats. I mean, to educate artists for legal terminologies and for business stuff is very, very difficult. But it's essential, and it's always been essential. And part of the problems that have led to the current crisis of terms of service rights grabs has to do. It all comes back down to your lack of education at the school level, saying, here are your rights. This is how your business works. You are a copyright owner. It's your job to manage that copyright for your benefit and to take care of it.
So you're saying that this is, in fact, a long-standing, just sort of a little...
Systemic problem. Yeah, it'd be pre-digital age. I mean, I've been involved with organizations from 1978 on, not to give away my age, but we've been trying to educate artists forever. The only way you're going to get companies to change their ways is if all the content creators work basically under one. We have to work under terms that are advantageous for us and for the companies. We're looking for win-wins. We're not looking for, it's not us versus them. We're all in the marketplace together.
It's a matter of organizing then.
Yes, organizing and education, absolutely. So artists, content creators everywhere should always be involved in other content creator groups.
I'm not a pessimist per se, but I don't see common sense in some of these areas. And I see even more tightening. And when we talk about the Oculus acquisition of Facebook, and when we talk about a Facebook-type virtual world, and people have been complaining about the terms of service in Second Life and about the fact that it's a walled garden, frankly, when Facebook creates a much larger virtual world.
Content creators beware. You have to know what you're signing. And
when I listen to you, I see at some point something that does work would be a strike or a walkout and say no. And then they say what? They say, okay, we'll go to Romania to create characters. They do it for a sandwich.
Look, it's a very real problem. Many of my colleagues have seen income drops over the past decade, very real income drops. And it's getting harder and harder to make a living like we once did in the new, truly global marketplace. I mean, where the cost of living in somewhere another part of the world is a fraction of what I have to pay here in the Northeast of the United States. So it's discouraging to see new markets adopt worse practices of the old market. Something called work for hire, which was the main problem that we were dealing with way back when. In 1978, the copyright law was rewritten in the United States, basically saying that if you make it, you own it. The large publishing companies they sent their lobbyists to Washington and says, well, we use employees that make content for us and drawings and stuff, and we don't want to treat them. Those are employees. We pay them salaries and benefits, so we want that work. We can't have our employees owning the work, and we negotiate that. We need an exemption from this. So the Library of Congress, who was negotiating the copyright law, said, okay, we will give you a provision called work for hire. This states that if you are an employee, you can get paid and you get benefits, and in exchange for this, you sign over your copyright for any content that you create while you are an employee.
Well, that's, I guess, the situation. You're creating it while you're employed there. It's similar to what happened now with Linden Lab and Verzu, too, with that other product.
So that's all well and good if you're an employee. So what the corporations then promptly started to do was make freelancers sign this document called work for hire, that says where you have to sign over your copyright saying, well, for in exchange for you getting paid by us, we own your copyright. We're not leasing your rights, we own it. So that's suicide to sign a document like that. And it was unethical. And we educated people for years and years about a work for hire. And I think we made good inroads because many world-class illustrators and artists would refuse to sign these things. And the company would say, well, we'll go to somebody else. And we would say, well, go to somebody else, because to work for hire, I might as well just throw my work away. I mean, I get paid for it, and then you own my copyright. You can make a fortune off me. So not going to do it.
And now we go back to a situation where you have a global economy, a tough economy, and people may be more willing to work for a lot less.
And they are. And as a matter of fact, we were fighting an uphill battle even back then with our local movements, local to both regional local and United States local, to fight work for hire. We were trying to get that law actually off the books because it was being abused so bad. But there were just too many artists that didn't get the word and that gladly signed away these things in exchange for chance to get published, So enter the global marketplace and you have people who desperately want to get the work out there and will work for free and don't need as much money on top of that. So if you're a freelancer, you have to really work much harder for your living now than ever because the budgets aren't there as what they used to be. There's alternatives if they don't want to meet your budget, and it's not unique to the content creation market. This has affected all kinds of markets and manufacturers.
What's the status of the work for hire now?
It's still out there. It's no change. Your choice is to either sign it or not. One could only hope that people are more educated now about what it is. So at least when they do sign it, they know what they're getting into. But it's still not a healthy. When I saw the terms of service of the Linden Lab revision, it was like, oh, no, not this again. So it's like, I fought that battle 20 years ago. It's the same, what's that creature, the Hydra, the same snake coming out of a different part.
No, it really seems like there was a very short time in the advent of digital technologies and the internet that was incredibly free, and it's all going back to an old model of control of a few entities. Is that your sense?
What was the whole internet infrastructure bill that was around? What was that called?
The net neutrality issue. That's a huge issue.
Concentration of power and
create an advantage for people with a lot of money. They can push their content through the pipes, and small people fall by the wayside. It's a big problem, but it's also a problem that I don't see enough awareness, and net neutrality is big. We have Comcast owning not only the pipes, but also the content that they want to push through. And I mean, even among the giants they're fighting, Comcast is fighting Time Warner. I mean, that's fun to watch. Maybe that actually may solve the problem if they both self-destruct, and then we can build something new from the rubble again. But
clash the titans. But what we can do, though, just to remain optimistic and positive, is to take your little corner of the rights world or the virtual world or whatever content creation world you want, and to organize and to educate the people who are in the same boat that we are in, and then try to approach the problem systematically and say, look, here's what the TOS is. This is what's wrong with it. Here's some correct language. Let's give it to Linden Lab. Let's talk to Linden Labs, and hopefully they'll make a good move. So that to me is what we should be concentrating our energy on as individuals. And you don't have to, run out of the sandbox saying, I'm never going to play with you guys, So let's just stick around, act like adults, and try to get some results. Let's talk and let's analyze the problem, come up with some solutions. And you don't have to, run out of the sandbox saying, I'm never going to play with you guys.
So that was Richard A. Goldberg. Please comment away and read up on the current discussion in the SL blogosphere. Plenty of heated debate, but also some rational and sober analysis and calmly stated opinion. We will, when we go back to live to tape shows, we will certainly revisit this and keep you updated, and hopefully have some really, really good folks on that hopefully provide you with a breadth of opinion on the matter and insight and analysis. I have to go back to my day job now. Joe and I will be back with Live to Tape in mid-August. Next week we have Holger Hager from Cyberith, the omnidirectional treadmill out of Austria, one of the big three makers of these thingies, together with Infinitec and Virtuix Omni. Let's see what the Cyberith folks believe, or why they believe they will win the treadmill wars. Also, Vic Forcella finally next week with commentary on SL 2.0. Meanwhile, please consider supporting the show by taking out a voluntary subscription. We have awesome little devices that accept your money, a vintage microphone, and an on-air sign that lights up when you feed it. Ping us in World for that, and please frequent the merchants that advertise with us as well. And subscribe on Stitcher, on iTunes, on Feedburner. Just do it. Spread the word. Thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.
The Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley is a weekly production of Basic Drax Entertainment. The show is supported by Leap Motion, SL Go By On Live, Stitcher, Bot Girls Identity Circus, Carvel Design, Vika Creations, Humanoid Animations, Escapades, Botanical, Death Row Designs, Nantra, Angel Red Couture, Fallen Gods Incorporated, What's Next, Avacon, and Landscapes Unlimited. Contact the show via Skype, Drax Files, Avatar Drax Files, or email radio@draxfiles.com.
Oops, Drax again here. I forgot one thing. There's a very interesting video, a real-life holodeck with an Oculus Rift out of the Max Planck Institute in Germany. And the researcher, who is identified as Joe, talks about Second Life and says Second Life with Oculus is really not good because the frame rates are dropping to about 20. I just have to say, because we shot with Mad P and Spiegel TV, as I mentioned earlier, and we shot with the Oculus on Mad P's Unia set, and there was absolutely no issue of dropping frame rates. The frame rates were well above 60. And yesterday I showed the Oculus to my dad, and lo and behold, 1920s Berlin. It was a little drop, but really not that noticeable, as this guy here says that he sort of had to, almost throw up. I think that's a little inaccurate. I think these issues can be easily mitigated by having a decent graphic card. So that's my 2 cents on the matter. We link to the video. Watch it. I had to comment as well. Sorry, it's impulsive. Bye.